My name is teacher Antonio Graceffo. I'm the host of the web TV show Martial Arts Odyssey and the author of the book The Monk from Brooklyn. Today we're in my grade 6 ESL class here in Tainan, Taiwan, and we're talking about our Tom Sawyer project. Now this was a semester-long project that involved reading, writing, speaking, listening, performance. The kids made a play, they wrote it themselves, they performed it. And it all was a case of tragedy into triumph because it all started because we were unable to read the original Tom Sawyer book and understand it.
On the open window and said to keep outside summer.
Jay, do you understand that? You understand? What does it mean? Do you know what it means? So we had to find some alternative way of studying Tom Sawyer, but this wound up being a unified theme for a whole semester of work. I love Mark Twain and I particularly love Tom Sawyer, but it's just not an appropriate text for second language kids in the 6th grade. This was only about the second or third full-length English book that I ever read, and there was no way they were going to get through the original Tom Sawyer. So the first thing we did was we got a Tom Sawyer comic book that was about 245 pages. It was originally designed as a 3rd grade textbook, and it was very easy to read. Obviously way below my students' reading level, but a lot of times I'll choose readings that are below their reading level because then we can do more exercises or more work after the fact because I don't have to stress about them being able to read it. They're actually able to just read it on their own and with very little help from me. Just think about it. Tom Sawyer has a lot of specialized vocabulary in it. There's all sorts of things related to the Mississippi River and boats and steamships, and you have to explain to them it's the days of slavery and it's before the Civil War and it's in the South, and there's a lot going on there. So I didn't mind giving them this easier text to read. After they'd read it, I had them go through and pick out all of the characters that were in the whole book. And I gave them stars. If they save up enough stars, they can trade them in and they get little prizes. For every so many names that they found, I gave them stars. And the winner found 27 characters in our Tom Sawyer comic book. Then I had them go through and count settings. How many different settings were there? Then I had them write a summary. And this all took place over a period of 4, almost 5 months for this whole project. As for the summary, in getting students to write a summary, what I do is I just get them to turn to the table of contents. We counted how many chapters. There were 17 chapters. I said, all right, I want you to write 2 sentences per chapter. And that meant 34 sentences. You have to remember too, these kids, their native tongue is Chinese, but a lot of them speak Taiwanese at home, so they're already dealing with 2 languages, they're learning English. 34 sentences is actually quite a lot for them, but the big thing was, it was just a way of making them go through the whole book again and really imbibing the story. Then I found a short cartoon on the internet. It was like a 10-minute version of Tom Sawyer. We watched that. The kids had written their summaries. We decided we were going to make our own comic books, so the kids worked in groups. They made their own comic books. They made beautiful artwork. They illustrated them. They wrote the text for the comic books. After that, we decided we were going to make a play because we needed a performance, a 40-minute performance for the kids' graduation at the end of 6th grade. So we were going to do a Tom Sawyer play. So we jointly wrote the text for the play, the script. Now, I've never written a script before, but I used the same format. I said, look, there's 17 chapters. Let's try and keep the dialogue down to a minimum per chapter because there's 17 of them, and let's go through chapter by chapter and sort of work out a basic dialogue. And I had the kids list which characters and which sets we needed for each of the chapters of the book, and then we went through and did a basic dialogue, and some characters got written out because we decided, well, he only appears a few times, he only has a few lines, or, oh, we could give these lines to the other character. And it was really amazing how the kids, and these kids probably never read a play in their life, and yet they figured out a lot of this on their own. The big thing about this project was that the language that we were writing and that we were performing arguably is school-type language, but all the language involved in making this project, all the behind the scenes and direction, that was all real communication. That was me giving them instructions and them asking me questions and how to perform and how to interact with each other. And it was all real language. And meanwhile, using this whole other set of vocabulary that a lot of kids would get in a textbook but never actually use, like scenes and sets and props and characters and narrator and dialogue and all these things. And of course, for these kids now, these are real concepts. They will never forget. After we finished writing our script, the next step was that I wanted them to start learning to use the computer for something other than playing games. Taiwanese kids are addicted to computers, but they only play games on them. So I had the kids take it in turns to actually type the script into the computer. I opened up files for each of them. They typed their own dialogue into their own file, and the kids were assigned roles. For example, one of my students, Jay, played Tom, so he typed Tom's dialogue in, and Jonathan played Huck, so he typed Huck's dialogue in, and Kiki played Becky Thatcher. She typed that dialogue in, and then we put all the dialogues together. We made a master copy. I went over it, cleaned it up, skimmed it, and that became our text, our script for our play. After that, we had to make puppets. We decided that we weren't going to do it as a play, we were going to do it as a puppet show, because that way the children would be able to read the script while they were performing, because it was just going to be impossible for them to memorize 40 minutes of dialogue. So we made these puppets. The heads are made of paper mache. They're wrapped around the arms. The bodies are made of cloth. I taught the kids to sew. I don't really know how to sew. It was very basic, very awful looking sewing. We used some old rags to make the clothing. The hats are made of Dixie cups. We used yarn to make the hair. Originally we were going to make bodies for each of the heads. We made about 27 heads because of all the different characters, but then we just decided that was going to be too many bodies, so instead the heads are on sticks, and we only made, each child made one body, and then when they were going to change the character, they just changed the head on that body. So you'll see that some of the characters are wearing the same clothes. After that, we had to make the sets. For example, we needed Aunt Polly's house, and we needed the interior because there was dialogue and there were things that happened in the interior. But then we needed the exterior of Aunt Polly's house for a different scene. So then that was a second set, a completely separate set. It doesn't have to be attached to Aunt Polly's house. It could be freestanding. In fact, it might need to be freestanding. There's two instances in the play where somebody jumps out a window. Indian Joe jumps out the window to escape the courtroom, and there's a scene where Tom climbs out the window to meet Huck in the middle of the night. So how do you do that with puppets? How do you make them jump out of windows? Tom hides in a closet and pops out. How do you do that? Indian Joe goes up the stairs in the ghost house and the stairs break and he falls down. So it was really interesting solving all those problems. In the end, I think we made about 16 or 19 sets, and the school had to give me a separate classroom that we used just for the Tom Sawyer stuff. We had the whole Tom Sawyer village built up in that classroom. We had the school, the church, Aunt Polly's house, Old Man Jones' house, the jail, everything that we needed. And we filmed always in that room. And of course, while we're filming, we have to shut off the air conditioning, which Taiwan is really hot, and the kids hate being without the air conditioning, so that was hard for them. Plus, getting that many kids to be quiet while we were filming was difficult. After we had shot the movie, I edited it. I was going to get the kids involved in the editing process to let them learn that. That didn't quite work out. Towards the end, though, I did get them to start holding the camera sometimes, which was one more skill I wanted to teach them with ESL. But Taiwanese kids really do nothing but study all the time. They start early in the morning at school, then they go to English school, and they might be at school until 9 and 10 o'clock at night. And they don't have the variety of activities that kids in the West would have. So letting them build these sets was even a real adventure for them, just learning how to cut and how to plan, and me telling them, look, it has to be this big or that big so that it'll fit on the camera. It has to be bigger than the puppets. It has to be smaller than that. And that was good for them. And letting them handle the camera a bit was good. Using the computer. These are all new experiences for them. If we had a second semester, we had another semester together, I would love to do a project where I actually let them film it, and then I would teach them film editing. But then I edited it for them, and then I found some sound effects that I borrowed from some movies like Bruce Lee and things like that, and I put them in, and some that I found on the internet that were given away for free, sound effects, put them into the movie. So the movie wound up being 23 minutes long. I made a separate 10-minute little documentary for the kids, filming them making the movie, and we gave them the whole set on a DVD as their graduation present. I'm Antonio Graceffo from Tainan, Taiwan. Thank you.